Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I am going to try to lead this meeting tonight because Steve Kahn isn't here, so bear with me. Thank you for being here and attending the October 14th meeting of the Yellow Springs School Board. We have a place for community comments. And if you weren't signed in, will you please sign in over there so that we can keep track of who's in the minutes. All right, call to order, please.
Kahn. Helen.
Here.
Ellison. Here. McQueen.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
All right. We're on to the approval of the minutes. That would be October, let's see, 14. Oh, I thought there were, okay, October 13th, approval of the minutes.
Actually, those are September 7th,
Right.
9th,
Yeah.
and 28th.
Oh, yeah. So where is that?
It's in the detail.
Oh, there we go. I thought it was down here too. Sorry. Okay, sorry. Minutes of 9/7, September 7th, September 9th, and September 28th. Is there a motion?
So
All right. Anybody have any questions or any comments about that? All right. Roll call.
Helen.
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes.
McQueen.
yes.
Turner.
Yes.
All right. Again, I'd like to acknowledge the persons present and welcome everybody here. And we're going to move into the communications portion of the agenda. Anybody, community comments? Anybody have anything they want to? Yeah. What? I hear a yes, but I don't see. Okay. Everyone, you want to step up to the microphone? Sure. And identify yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Amy Magnus of Yellow Springs. And I just had a quick comment about, there was an article in today's paper, a closer look at Yellow Springs school levy. And there was one paragraph that mentioned the PI levy, the 0.5 mil PI levy that the Ohio Facilities Construction Committee, it's the requirement. And there's a little bit of ambiguity in how it was worded by the article, and so it talks about the life of the current proposed 6.5 property levy extends 37 years with of course it talks about the income tax with no end date, and then there's a mention of a 0.5 mil portion of the property tax will be earmarked for ongoing maintenance of the new campus, according to District Treasurer Tammy Emmerich. Now, I had a brief conversation with the superintendent on Tuesday. Dorothy and I were there, and she mentioned that the PI levy that's mandated by OFCC actually is not included in the bond issue. And so I was just seeking clarification from the superintendent and from Tammy if we could have that today. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. All right, moving on to administrative reports. Who wants to go?
I can go first. The first part was just about a program that we have going on, but I think Megan's going to talk a little bit more about that, so I know that you all looked at it, you can see the description, and I'm going to skip over that part and not touch on it. I think you Megan has some of the same pictures, but she actually went on a field trip for those pictures, so the second part, I just wanted to let you know about some of the technology things going on. We got some funding from the Emergency Connectivity Fund. It was $58,785, and This will be coming to us as a reimbursement and put in for it for student devices. So it'll cover the cost of 261 student Chromebooks. And then technology in the classroom, under that section, some equipment that we're getting and we're starting to get in classrooms. There are 7, they're on their way, the last few of them, but 7 ViewSign and ViewBoards. They will take the place of basically a whiteboard, computer, and projector in many instances. 75-inch, what Thomas had explained to me is like a 75-inch iPad, but it's a full touch screen device that goes on the wall. Students can write on it, students can do interactive activities, linked with either their Chromebooks or their Chromebooks and their teacher's device. So there's a lot of different applications that can be used to allow for presentation, learning activities, and interactive lessons that we didn't otherwise have. And as I said, we're getting 7 of those. 2 will go in the conference rooms in each building, but then we're getting 3 go at Mel Blond and 2 go at, I think they're in high school rooms, but Mel Blond High School building. And those teachers all volunteer to be part of a training program to learn about the features so that they can better support the next teachers that will get some of those devices. And Matt Burbrick is going to be putting together that training program and supporting those teachers to support the rest of the building. And that is all.
So is the idea to get them in more classrooms over time?
Yeah, but then they become more commonplace in most school districts, and it helps kids to see the kind of technology and do the kinds of presentations that they would be doing if they were in the business world and corporations.
Anybody else? Okay. All right.
I think I'm up.
Okay.
All right. First, I just want to talk about homecoming. So last year, we missed out on so much. This year, we were able to have homecoming again. In a typical year for both homecoming and prom, we have between 100 and 110 kids. This year, we sold nearly 200 tickets, right at the 200 mark. So for me, it was a real sign that some of the things that maybe we were taking for granted and not appreciating as much as we should have, we're now appreciating a little bit more, and having that social interaction stripped away for so long. When it was offered, so many kids took advantage of it. It was actually also really interesting because normally by 10:30 or so, homecoming's clearing out, and we probably still had 75 kids there at 11 o'clock. So it was just really nice to see in the Autumn Bliss theme. It was set up more as a festival than just a dance, so we did have a dance space. But you know, your traditional dance where it's mostly just a dance floor, because we were outside and we had so much more space, we were able to have different seating areas where the kids who didn't want to just dance were able to still sit and socialize and I think have a good time. So it was, we had, if you scroll down just a bit, we had our homecoming court last Tuesday between the soccer games. So you see the pictures of the class reps, and then our king and queen, Bobby and Carly, were recognized there. So it's just fun to bring those traditions back, and it was a fun week altogether. We had home volleyball games, senior night on Monday, and then we had the homecoming events on Tuesday, and that was our boys soccer final game against Dayton Christian. If they won the conference. So that was a really big game. And then Wednesday we had home volleyball as well, and Thursday we had home soccer, and then the dance was scheduled for Friday. We ultimately made the decision to move it to Saturday because of the weather forecast. And it ended up just being a really great week. I think our kids, the participation in our Spirit Week, like the way the kids were dressing at school, was higher than I typically see. And we had a pep rally Monday afternoon out at the stadium, and we had more kids in our Bulldog colors than I typically see on a Bulldog Spirit Day. So it was really great to feel like that sense of school community is coming back and really rebounding stronger maybe than it was even pre-pandemic. The next thing is theater. So we had Talking Wit was our upperclassmen showcase with our juniors and seniors. It's a monologue show, and we chose that intentionally so we didn't have to have our thespians working together closely, so the rehearsal could be done with more social distancing and with smaller groups of students instead of everybody together. And then we also knew that our venue was going to be smaller, so we were using Agraria. So it worked out beautifully. And talking business, for me, it was such a powerful show. It was the first time I'd seen it. But the individual monologues just really made me think like it was a show that I walked away from and continued to think about the messages, kind of the hidden messages in all of the different performances. So a huge thanks to Agraria for giving us that, or allowing us to use that space. And congratulations to our students and then to Lori for making it beautiful and having it run well and smoothly. And it was really just a wonderful show. Next up is the Sticky Cheese Man. That is set to run mid-December. It was originally going to be here, but after seeing how this gym is being used with social distancing and everything during lunch with Mel Blond and having classes in here and the interruption that it creates for us to have our sets on the stage and whatever, we had to reconsider, and we are running into a real struggle to find performance space in this community. So I think that's a very real need right now. In the past, we've used the Foundry. The Foundry is not available to us currently. We were thankfully able to secure the Clifton Opera House, which I think will be a really great space for the show. But it is an ongoing need in this community. We have so many performers and artists. We really needed a viable space that we can count on and rely on for our students and community members. And then fall sports. The regular season is coming to a close. I think the conference championships for cross country, I think I just saw that they got rescheduled. So that those are right around the corner. Soccer and volleyball have concluded their regular seasons, are moving into the postseason. Volleyball plays this a week from tonight up at Covington. Our boys soccer ended up as the #1 seed, undefeated, and won the conference. So a really great regular season. We got a favorable draw in our bracket, both the first couple rounds, but then also the bigger bracket statewide. The other state powerhouses, we don't beat them until very late in the tournament, so really a favorable draw for them. Want to highlight Cheyenne Sindel Turner, who has the fastest time in the Metro Buckeye Conference up to this point this season. So they haven't had their conference championships yet. I was able to go out to Emmanuel Christian and see all of our kids run. It was the first time I'd seen our middle school kids run. And it's so funny to see those kids really coming into their bodies a little bit, but not quite yet. And then Cheyenne ended up winning that race by, I think, almost a minute. So really, really cool for her. And then again, our boys soccer, that's a team that they played and competed together for years and years as a group, playing club soccer together and a lot of hours of hard work. So looking forward to a strong postseason run there. And then the last piece is Into the Wild. This is another tradition that we were able to bring back this year. It was unfavorable weather the first week when we were supposed to go. They were calling for like 3 inches of rain during the days when we were supposed to be there. We ended up moving it to the following week, and we had sunshine and blue skies the entire time. I think I forgot how powerful it is when kids are immersed in nature for 3 days, when kids are with their classmates for 3 days, and honestly when kids are with their teachers for 3 days, because you get to develop a different type of relationship than you do when you only see people for 45 minutes and then they move on. And when you're outside in this different structure, for me, the most powerful piece is when you're biking with a kid that doesn't think they can do it, and then they do it. And to see that confidence, and the way the trip is structured, they bike 37, 38 miles the first day, and it's really loud and chatty for about the first 5 miles, and then it just gets quieter and quieter, and then the last 5 miles it's just silence. But the first day, it's just grueling for some of those kids. It's them persevering through something they've never done and probably didn't believe they could do when they got on the bikes that morning. And then when you get on the last day, when you bike down to Loveland, it's a completely different attitude for those kids. You can see it in their eyes, you can see it in their attitude, or in their emotions, that they have confidence they didn't have the first day. That it's only 17 miles. And if you would have said it's only 17 miles on the first day, they would have believed it. So it's remarkable. The first picture there is Mr. Dickens leading, that's at the Spring Valley Lake. We after we eat lunch, we bike down there, and the kids do water quality testing in the lake. And then the picture to the right, that's on the canoe. So on the second day, half the group does a macroinvertebrate count, and Agraria partnered with us and sent one of their employees down to do the macroinvertebrate count with our students, the other half canoes, and then we flip for the afternoon. So that's a picture looking down the river. And then the last one is a picture on the way down to Loveland. We have one stop at Peter's Cartridge Company, and that's the newly renovated Peter's Cartridge Company. So if you haven't seen that building since it's been renovated, it's remarkable how different that whole property looks. But again, our kids were remarkable. I think when they take a step back and reflect on middle school, it'll be a highlight of their middle school days. So, very great.
It's a great way to start their middle school experience for everybody. I mean, as you said, teachers and students alike.
Well, for me as a principal and not being in the classroom with kids, it's hard to learn kids' names. And by the end of that trip, you know every seventh grader's name. So now, when they walk in the door, I can greet them by name, and I've got it for the next 6 years. So it's really, really powerful.
I imagine with every group, something really stands out just because it's a different dynamic. But is there any you've done this now several years, is there anything that's consistent about it, or sort of?
I think for me, it's those kids that really, really struggle on the bike. Like that's the powerful piece. And I rode, so we did 2 training rides this year before we went. And the first training ride, one of our students made it about 4 miles total. And she was embarrassed to bike in front of her peers. And when we went the first day, from about mile 12 to mile 17, which was the lunch stop, she did not want to go anymore. And she made it. She made it to lunch. Then it's 3 miles down to Spring Valley Lake, and she said, I'm gonna ride to Spring Valley Lake. And she made it. And she did get picked up there, but just the idea that in a 2-week time, she went from riding 4 miles to making it 20 miles, and after 17 miles, when she could have just thrown in the towel and been defeated, she pushed on and made another 3 miles. That kind of perseverance like that, it's powerful for those kids to have that experience. Yeah. And this year is a little different because Mr. Gillette went, Mr. Dickens, and Mr. Levy, and none of those 3 have ridden that far. So for them, it was their longest ride as well. And it was funny because Mr. Gillette was like, I don't know if I can make it. So I think that was kind of refreshing for the 7th graders to see, we're going through that.
Adults struggling,
Yeah.
So hard.
So.
Sticking with it themselves. Yeah.
It's nice to hear it's a building, and they were telling about their experiences and like the differences, the similarities. It was actually really nice. He loved it.
Good.
Yeah, and brought back a bunch of. She got nostalgic about it.
Yeah, nice. All right, thanks. Anybody have anything else? All right. You're up.
Okay, Mel Blond. I have 2 events that actually took place today that are not on the slide, so I will just mention them and thank all of the parents that attended our second Coffee on the Lawn this morning. There were more parents. I would say probably about 30 parents this morning at 8 o'clock. And it's just an opportunity for them to be able to have conversations with other parents and share stories and ask questions. And then I come out around 8 and start talking around 8:05, just what's going on in the school. And then I give all the parents an opportunity to ask questions that they might have based on conversations with their students at home. So we had that this morning, and then we also had a recognition for Chief Carlson. So the kids left for their fire drill, and after the fire drill was over, they went out to the sidewalk, and Chief Carlson drove around, and the kids clapped and said thank you. So that was a good event too. Like Donna mentioned, Mills Lawn is partnering with Pine, and Pine is the program for inclusion and neurodiversity education. And this is offered through kind of a partnership with NYU. And this program offers training courses, mentorship, office hours, resources. They are actually offering a virtual summit in November where any of the Mills Lawn teachers are going to be able to hop on to these either live if they don't have class at that time, or they can watch them later. So there's a lot of different resources that they are going to have access to through this. And one of the reasons we're doing it is because studies are showing right now that 1 in every 54 students is somewhere on the autistic spectrum. And this does not just focus on autism. It is for all neurodiversity. And one of the things we want to make sure is that brain differences are normal rather than deficits. So we want to make sure that the teachers that are supporting the students and instructing the students have all the resources and knowledge necessary. So to begin this work, we created a PINE committee or a team that is going to finish up a 6-week accelerated course next week. So we do this every Wednesday from 3:30 to 4:30. And I must say that this training has probably been one of the best that I've been to throughout my career. So it's very organized. They give us time to work. It's interactive. It's been a really great opportunity for us. So in this training, they basically do use a train-the-trainer model. So we will then become kind of the experts in Mills Lawn. And they've also asked us to do 2 things. One is to kind of create the blueprint for a rollout at Mills Lawn for the staff and for the students, and eventually for parents and for community members. And the second thing is kind of a kickoff to PINE. So we have spent a little bit of our time discussing how are we going to make sure that teachers know that they have these resources, how are they going to find time to utilize these resources. And so we sit and we talk and we discuss how can we use our staff meetings, how can we use grade level meetings. And we will be doing that, but the kickoff, we thought about going to visit a sensory path. So we contacted the principal at New Carlisle Elementary School in Tecumseh School District. And she said that we could come to look at a sensory path. And you can see on these pictures, these are just different sensory paths that they have in their building. And the sensory path is ultimately providing students with an option, and an option for many reasons. Maybe they need to be active. Maybe they need to wake up their brain in the morning. The one on the wall with the hands, that provides an opportunity to kind of get some of that cross-body movement that studies have shown is going to wake up the brain, and it also helps retain information. So you have that one, and then they have some on the floor, and it will tell students, kind of hopscotch on the soccer balls. There's one that students even go on their hands, and they put their feet on the wall, so they're upside down. So we are really trying to make it possible to bring at least one sensory path to Mills Lawn, maybe second semester. They aren't too expensive. You can pick the theme that you want. This one is the sports. And I must say, when we were there, they had students that day, and the students were looking at us like, get away from our sensory path. We wouldn't even. So we kind of moved on. But teachers said that they use it for individual students just in the classroom. They can send the students out. There's always someone around that is kind of supervising them. And they also use it as an opportunity for whole class activities. While they are using the restrooms, they will send a student through, and then they go to the restroom, and then the next student starts. So they use it a lot, and they are trying to figure out ways to create more in that building. So we are looking to kind of use that as part of our PINE kickoff, and hopefully by second semester we will have something for our students to use. And in the PINE kickoff, the week of October 25th, we are going to set up a little sensory path in the gym for the teachers to use during a conference break. So that's going to be kind of towards the end of that time kickoff week. And that's actually not it. The second thing on the list, we have to thank John Gudgel for. He got a group of volunteers together and they created these Bulldog track events. One was in September, and the last one, actually I think they both were in, they were both in September, and they were about 2 weeks apart. So the first one took place September 16th, and then the second one took place on September 30th. So the first one, we had over 50 Mills Lawn students participate. It was a 1 mile run, and it was held at the high school track. Students got a ribbon at the end when they finished their mile run, and then they were able to get a popsicle. And it was really hot that day. And some of those students are really little and have short legs, so I was really impressed that they all finished it, but we had over 50 students, and I thought that was a great event. The second one was a 100-yard dash, and that again took place at the high school. And we had about 25 participants in that one. And again, they got a ribbon at the end. It's a really great family event. Everyone's clapping for all the students. John Gudgel did a wonderful job, and they are now asking when is the next one. So he told me today that he is going to do this again in the spring. So I think he started something. And he also reminded me that this was a really nice break from football games on Friday nights lasting 2.5 to 3 hours, which I'm used to in the old district. So I encourage everyone to come out. If you hear about it, come out to the next one because it's a fun family event. Okay, so the third one, our Glen Helen walks are back. 5th grade is starting us off. They are traveling on Wednesdays in the afternoon after lunch. It's their PBL project. It's how can we as environmental stewards advocate for and help protect the biodiversity in our local ecosystems. And they are identifying invasive species at the Glen, positive, negative. They are talking to some people at the Glen and trying to figure out how do they track this, how do they monitor this, and how can the 5th grade students help. So thank you to the 5th grade teachers and Sada Amin who have kind of put this together. They are setting the bar kind of high for the other groups. But the 5th graders are really enjoying it, minus one bee sting, but they are really just liking the fact that they get to travel outside the school and go to the Glen. And I think that's all I have.
Hey, thanks everybody. Always good to get those check-ins. All right, moving on to Treasurer's Report and recommendations.
Okay. The Treasurer's Report is as of September 30th, 2021, and I'm going to be talking about the general fund. So the revenues for the general fund for the 3 months are about $100,000 under budget. And also on the flip side, the expenses are about $124,000 under budget. So when you take those into account, we are running very close to budget. Actually, we're about $24,000 over in our cash. So, you know, when you're looking at a $10 million budget, that's pretty close. So and then you have all the attachments to the financial report, and they're pretty standard. I won't go through all those. But then on the last pages, you'll have all the fund balances for all the funds. Yeah, I'm done.
All right, anybody have any questions? Okay, moving on to the adoption portion of our consent calendar and under financial, 4.1 through 4.4. Is there a motion? So moved. All right. That's yours too, Tammy.
Okay. We have one appropriation increase, and that's for $3,175, and that's for the general fund, and that's to cover some benefits. We also have a reimbursement in lieu of transportation, and then we also have a certificate of availability, and that's for Kettering Health Network. I had a purchase order at the end of last fiscal year, closed it out because I didn't have the invoice, and then I got the invoice and had to reopen the purchase order, or do a new purchase order, so I needed a certificate of availability. And then we also have one budget and purpose statement, and that's for the Mills Lawn Student Council.
All right, thanks. Anybody have any questions or anything? All right, well, roll call.
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Merriman.
Yes, thank you. All right, moving into the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I do have some updates tonight, so I'm going to actually go through them. And the first is exciting and important news, and that is Yellow Springs High School has actually 2 National Merit semifinalists, which is a big, big deal in a school district and a school of our size. So they represent about the top 1% of high school seniors. So in junior year, all students take the PSAT. It's the qualifying test for the National Merit Scholarship Program. That test this year was actually Wednesday, and we've committed to paying for the test for all of our 10th and 11th graders. And so we did that on Wednesday. 10th graders are not eligible for National Merit, but it's a good test for them. But 2 students, Delia Howlett and Amelia Hurley. Their names are so close that I've been a struggle for me. But Delia Howlett and Amelia Hurley are semifinalists. So what happens is in February, the National Merit Program will make the announcement of who moves on to finalist status. In layman's terms, you're going to have a full ride somewhere as a National Merit finalist. So it's a great achievement. So congratulations to those 2 seniors. Next, board, I want to talk a little bit about some pending legislation. And sometimes it seems boring, but this is pretty important legislation that's getting ready to roll, and each piece is at various stages in Columbus. So provisions of the Fair School Funding Plan, which was House Bill 110, have already been enacted. The initial plan was for 6 years. That has been scaled back, and the legislature said, we don't want to do something that new people are going to own, so we're only going to do it for 2 years. So that's FY22 and FY23, which means that we really haven't solved the school funding problem. House Bill 82 is the report card bill. So there are all kinds of changes to the report card. Ohio actually released report cards today, which basically has no academic information on them because of the past almost 2 years of the pandemic. I will be giving a report to the board in November about what is available, just so that we can get back to seeing the kind of information that the state releases about us. But if you remember, we had a A to F system. Now they're going to stars and half stars. So it's like movie ratings, right? So I've listed in my update all of the specific components of the report card legislation. There are two interesting things which I think are certainly appropriate, and that is the 30-day requirement. So within 30 days of release, I must tell parents that the report card is available and how they can access it. And within 30 days, I have to give a report to the board about our report and results. House Bill 123, 126, and 140, they are all bills that are serving to restrict how local school districts can raise money. Those are going to be pretty significant. House Bill 322 and 327, if you remember, we talked about these in the summer. This is the critical race theory, the social studies bill. Parts of these I'm going to tell you are going to pass. And just today, NBC News put out a little article about a school district in Texas that I do not remember the name of, but...
It was Carol in Clarksville.
Thank you, that was it. Thinking about banning Holocaust literatures. They specifically named Lois Lowry's Number the Stars, which just makes me shake my head. But know that that's still out there. And then finally, House Bill 290, just from this week, the backpack bill. This is another one that is concerning. This would establish a statewide universal voucher program for all students of between $5,000 to actually $7,500 for them to attend a private school. So, really important legislation, really important for us to reach out to our local legislators and express our displeasure about any of these bills. I want to remind everybody, as part of my responsibility as superintendent is to communicate to the public about issues of the district, and the one issue of the district that is looming large is our bond issue that is on the ballot on November 2nd. We have FAQs as a link on our district website, so please visit that. Here is my plea. However, as voters get information to make informed decisions, please do not get your information from social media or any other sources that may or may not be accurate. If you are trying to figure out your property tax, do not take 0.65% times your assessed value. That is incorrect. That indicates a lack of understanding of how school village works. For property tax, what I would recommend, go to the Greene County Auditor website, put in your address, and you will find out how much you would have to pay in property tax. If some of you read either the Dayton Daily News or Springfield Sun, maybe, there's a number that they quote that this bond issue will raise $23 million. That is actually the property tax portion, so I don't want anyone to get confused. All of us, as community members and citizens, where we have the right to vote, it's our responsibility to get correct information and make an informed decision. So, we're under 2 weeks now, so here we go. I do want to address, normally I don't address public comments, but I do want to address Amy's comment. So, on the June 15th, 2021 special meeting that we had here, I believe our legal counsel was here, and we approved our agreement with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission. In that agreement, which I must say is available online, as is almost every document that we have, there is the discussion of the 0.5 mil levy that is required for maintenance. School districts have, that levy runs for 23 years. School districts have the legal option to enact that levy at the time of the project. So, for example, November 2nd, or they legally have the right to wait until the district becomes eligible for the Classroom Facilities Assistance Program. We have waited, which is indicated in the documentation from the June meeting, we have waited to do that. Why? Because at the end of the project, so if the bond issue passes at the end of the project, we would be required to work with the OFCC to have a maintenance plan for that half-mil levy. That is not for regular maintenance. That is for catastrophic failure. So, most districts, our decision is not, we're not unique in that. Most districts do not do this initially because the hope is that when you build a new building that you don't have catastrophic system failure. That's why we enact that later, if that makes sense.
And can I tag on to that?
Yes, you may.
So basically what our plan is to use portions of the income tax to fulfill that half-mil property tax requirement, which is what we can do.
So, all of this information is readily available. If you don't know where it is, please call me. I am readily available because I want people to be informed and I want folks to have factual information. Okay, so it's our civic responsibility vote. And then lastly, I think, yes. We were accepted into the League of Innovative Schools. I applied probably early summer for the district to be part of this league. It's a highly competitive application. Our acceptance makes us one of only 125 districts in the country. Local districts that are part of it are Middletown, Lakota, Reynoldsburg, Springfield, I think, just became a member. And the league is dedicated to technology. It's part of Digital Promise and an initiative that actually started under President Barack Obama. But it's around technology and innovation and equitable learning environments. So I'm required to go to 2 meetings a year, and the first one is next week, so I'm sure in November I'll be able to tell you all about that. But it's a good thing for the district, particularly when you're small. It's good to have partners. It's good to be part of a larger network so that you can leverage those resources. And that is my update.
Thank you. All right. So then we're going to be moving into...
Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm going to do this now, so she may not have to wait. I forgot, and Donna did not do it yet, but later, we will be approving our new intervention specialist, and I would like to introduce her right now. If that's
Oh,
okay.
yeah, good. No.
So this is, that was part of my update that I didn't finish. This is Candy Sela. She will be the new intervention specialist here at Mills Lawn, K3. So, welcome to the
Thank you.
district.
Would you like to say anything, Candy? You can step up to the microphone. You don't have to. I just want to... Okay. Well, thank you for being here and welcome. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to move into the portion of the consent, the administrative consent calendar. That's 6.1 through 6.3? No, 6.5.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
All right.
So that was Steve and TJ.
We just have a few things tonight. One is a first and second reading of our open enrollment policy. That is not a substantive change in terms of numbers, but just cleans up some dates. The second is a contract with Neola so that we can continue to update our policies and guidelines. 6.3 is a continuation of our broadband grant. This is the second grant, and this is really passed through because it's through Rebecca is working with the village, and it's the FTTH, which is fiber to the home pilot project. So there's that. And then custodian of records, Green County Juvenile Court has changed their policies and now requires us to certify all records and identify a custodian of records. That will be Ms. Donna first. She has to have a special little stamp to do so. And then finally, what I think is probably the most important, I'm asking the board to approve the daily rate of our substitutes in all classifications. The struggle is real. You know, it's so difficult to get subs. Will this solve the problem? I don't know, but it's the right thing to do, so I ask for your approval for that. And that's it for me.
That's great. Anybody have anything?
As people said, hey, you know, like I would definitely sub more if.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yes, and
We had somebody who was wanting to work here, but they were applying in other districts because they couldn't. So they were very happy.
All right. I guess we're ready for the vote, huh?
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
Allison.
Yes. All right, on to the personnel portion of the consent calendar. And that is 7.1, right?
Yep.
Yep. Anything? Yeah. Oh, roll call. Sorry. First things first.
No, you know.
Oh, motion, sorry. Whatever.
I'll move.
Sorry.
Second.
Nothing ahead there. Nothing ahead.
no, the only thing, it's typical at this time of year, it's smaller. I should note that it's smaller than it has been. Supplementals is the majority of it. And then a resignation for the end of the year, retirement, teacher retirement. So, that's it.
Appreciate that person coming forward so soon.
Yeah, and contractually with the evaluation process, the state says if you notify the district by December 1st of your intent to retire, you do not have to do that.
Yeah. All right. I guess now it's the time to vote.
Turner,
Yes.
Helen,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
All righty. Board communications. And Career Center report.
Okay. The meeting was last night, and we were able to see a program that we were able to have because we have a new building, and it's giant, and we have a drone and UAS tech program in which kids can get certified in learning how to, basically operate several types, but definitely on the end of commercial. And they actually can get certified to work for drone companies that do several types of things. Usually a lot, there's real estate versions of it, and there's cities do it for certain type of advertisement. So it's a new program, a new teacher who came from the West Coast to try and get this done, and it's working really well. There's already people interested in wanting to hire once the certifications are there, so the market is definitely there. So we're really excited about that. We got a nice little program to see one of these days. I'll actually try to make some sort of pictures or something. And then comes the reports from other schools. The COVID, of course, still comes up because it's the career center, so we're hands-on. We are requiring masks, and heard from Cedarville, an interesting story. So they were optional at first, and they ended up with 80 cases.
800.
80, correct. And so they made mask mandatory, and they only had, after that, 8 cases. So even they had to say that however it works, it does work. The Career Center got involved in something called the Warren City Pilot Project. And this project is something by the health department of the state, in which they are, of course, the parents have to sign off on this, but what they do is, because so many people are getting quarantined from having contact, what they're doing is, if a case happens, so we had 117 people actually sign up. So once they were in the not having it, but were in the vicinity or some contact of some sort, they would test them then, allow them to still stay within the community, and then tested them between 3 and 5, or 5 and 7 days later. Yeah, 5 and 7 days later. And if they tested again, all good. And by doing so, 114 were negative. So there was 3 cases. So a bunch of people were able to not have to be quarantined just because they were in contact, because the testing was there. And so they're trying to sort of make this a broader situation, especially for schools like the Career Center, where, sorry, you can't, there's no virtual way to do any of the things we actually do there. And clearly it works. That is a 99 or 98.8%, I believe it was, and how efficient it actually is. So there's extra quarantine that's not needed, and so this is sort of making its way through other schools. And I started in Warren County, and so that's why it's called the Warren County Pilot Project. It helped a lot tremendously. Several kids were able to stay, unlike Cedarville City, they had to close down several times because of 80 students, for them was like traumatic. They couldn't stay open. And yes, that concludes my report from the Career Center.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, moving into any other board member items?
I'm just going to tag on and say, I think the restaurant at the Career Center is going to open.
So it opened before, oh, thank you for your.
Yeah. Because they're making facility there, but yeah.
So also the cosmetology has opened, all of it being very certain days, certain times, and very spaced out. But the cosmetology department, as well as the restaurants, are doing it the same day. So if you wanted to sort of like, hey, for $10 you get your haircut, and then have a nice little meal, all done by students. The next time it's going to happen is today and tomorrow. So tomorrow, you'd be able to go. It's during the day, 12 to 4, I believe, is the actual times. And once again, all of that's together. So whether it's cosmetology, makeup, pedicure, manicure, before the works, as well as a really nice restaurant in which all students host you, serve you, are cooking all the meals. It's amazing. I was able to do this 2 Saturdays ago. I actually was not able to see them in the building, but went right after caught the end of it. But I was able to actually watch Bella, who came out, she hosted, and it was really fun. So I do advise people to definitely stop by the Career Center. if you can tomorrow, hopefully after tomorrow, we're gonna have some more dates where it's gonna line up where you can pick a day during the week to go, because it'll be open that long, but it still will be spaced out. They're gonna make sure it's not too often, because they don't want to end up having cases. So thank you for the reminder. Yes, the commissioner's doing some stuff. Pretty sure mechanics are going to be doing some stuff pretty soon too. If your car needs it.
Wow. I think it was Friday, right? Yeah. And our car is getting tended to. Okay, folks, that's the end of our meeting. We're going to move into an executive session, and we will not be coming out to vote on anything, so we'll be working down this motion. All right. Thanks for being here. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Steve? Roll call.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Turner.
Yes.